Okay, what we have is the Aries equipment bottle fill, weigh, and feeding system. Bottles are obviously kept on or stored on the conveyor belt. Put all the bottles that you're going to fill on the storage conveyor, and they come out finished at this point. This is our capper, does the capping functionalities. Over here we have the weigh, the feed hoppers. The coarse or the larger products go in the outside tube. The finer products that we've used across our sorter go in these two, and so it's got a coarse feed and a fine feed, so our target weight, whatever the target weight is, we can adjust the transfer weight to go from coarse to fine feed merely at the push of a button. This is our control interface. It is industrial PC with a Siemens background. It's fairly easy to run. Once you've filled in all of your print data, how many you want, what your target weight is going to be, and then your speeds for all of your different conveyor, your transfer weight information. It also has a recipe function where if we want to select a different recipe, we merely select it and it automatically loads. Or actually we tell it to load and it will load that particular, and it actually shows you which recipe you're running up at the top.
Can you tell me what a recipe means for purposes of this?
What a recipe does is it actually takes all these data set points, which are speeds of the conveyors, and it populates those so you don't have to manually enter those particular parameters. It's done automatically for you. Once we've started it up and done the testing and fine-tuned everything, then we store that recipe so we can recall it later. We have two scales. Both are represented here in these two green fields. So when the conveyors are running, these will change color, these will change color, and so will that, telling you what's being activated at any one time so you know where the system is. It also has the last 3 good dumps and the last 3 reject weights and what they were. The system tracks everything from the first to the last, and that's where you enter it in here. After the total number of bags to run, in this case we have 500. So we set that point, we set that point. The overweight set point is set at 10% now, and which gives you cannot be greater than this weight, which is 9.85 at 10%. So anything over that is going to get sent to our reject and recycled through the system. Anything between 3.5 and 3.8 is going to get packaged.
That way you're never underweight, you're always
Correct.
over.
You'll always be overweight. And again, this is all stored in a CSV file that we can access and use for the daily production manifest, what was done, when it was done, how much was done, etc.
So depending on your state regulations, you might be able to integrate this depending on your state.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It also has a manual screen where we can switch to manually turn anything on and off, cycle anything if we have a problem, and to, for instance, at the end of a run, we'd want to open the reject hopper. Oh, we gotta stop. Manual select. Start in manual mode. It'll tell you it's starting in manual mode. So we open the reject, we open that hopper, and we open the B-scale hopper, and we merely turn on the vibratory bead that clears out the system into our reject. So a quick way of emptying the last little bit of a run. And you merely go back to the start screen, you select auto. So it says system stopped in auto. You merely hit start and it will run all 500 packages as long as you've got product in both. If it runs out of either, it'll stop and wait for you to fill it.
How many people would you recommend to run this machine?
2. 1 to run the controls and the bottles, to load the bottles, and 1 to take the bottles away, fill them, check weigh them, and tag them.
Can you tell me a little bit about this control panel here?
This is everything that Aries makes is componentized. So if I wanted to not run bottles and I wanted to run the bagging machine, I merely take this out of position, put the bagger here, we can fill it automatically with the bags. What this is for is if you want to independently control the functions of this conveyor, say for instance you wanted to manually put something in the bottle while you're bagging it, this has its own controller in it, and you can manually cycle through all of the devices on this control panel, or on this conveyor. We also did that for troubleshooting, so you can turn on and cycle any one of the air pneumatic cylinders as well, so you can step it through manually to cap the bottles. Both of the conveyors are controlled with an inverter, so we have variable speed of those. At the moment, we're doing 6 to 10 containers a minute, depending on the product. So it's pretty fast, and you can do that as long as you can. This is an industrial machine designed to be used 24/7.
And I see a lot of red buttons on it. Can you tell me about
That's
those?
our emergency stop. In case there's an emergency, we have 3, one on the main control panel, one on this control panel, and one down at the end. In case there's an emergency, an issue, somebody's got to leave, you hit that, it shuts everything off.
Can you
It
tell,
leaves the PC going, but it shuts all the mechanical stuff off.
what happens if someone puts their hand on the conveyor belt?
They both have clutches, so if somebody puts their hand in the belt merely stops.
So they get any clothing stuck on it or anything
Well, anything
happens?
like that, it takes very little pressure to stop these conveyors. And
Nice,
that
no
was
one's gonna lose any fingers.
Nobody's gonna lose any fingers. You'd have to really try
That's great.
to do that. But the pneumatics, the controls for the scale heads are all done independently. There's only 3 moving parts that actuate the scales and the reject. So there's very few moving parts, less to go wrong. Everything else is a vibratory type of conveyor that designed to last very, very long time, years and years and years, without any maintenance.
What are the power requirements?
The system is 110 volts AC. We do require 220 volt AC single phase for the motors to put into our inverters to change it to 3-phase, because these are 3-phase motors. If you have 3-phase, don't need that. Then if you have the 3-phase, then we can make whatever we need. But this runs off 110. Total current for the whole system is maybe 4 amps, 5 amps, something like that. Very efficient.
And you can integrate other systems into this unit like RFID tracking, correct?
Absolutely. It's already set up to do RFID if we ever get to that point. We're set up to print and do label applications. We haven't got that part installed in this machine yet, but we've got the auto bagger there that can be incorporated to this or used as a standalone unit. And we can do labeling on the side of the jar and put the barcode on the top of the jar as well, automatically applicated. So I'm just not there yet.
Can you tell us more about the air hoses?
Well, you only need one air supply. You need about 65 PSI. It's connected right down here. This is our solenoid bank for everything that's controlled on this machine. If you notice down here on the control panel, the 2 flexible conduits that go from one side to the other side are all quick disconnect. There's no wiring when you set this machine up, so there's no way you can make a mistake. We've got the load cell sensors going through one pipe and all of the other signals going through the other pipe, so we don't get any crosstalk. That was the reasoning for the 2. And they both are quick disconnect plugs. I mean, it takes less than a minute to set this thing up. Everything is adjustable height-wise. It all has the anti-vibration type peak, so we don't have the scale head on the same platform as the vibratory conveyors. We did that for a reason, for stability. And as you can see, we're looking down to the thousandth of a gram here.
And that's a state scale, correct?
Correct. These are NFPA certified scales, or what is it? NTEP.
And today we were manually weighing, and did we have any come in underweight as far as you know?
No underweights.
How many were there?
Pardon?
How many were there?
825, I think we did today. So in a matter of 5-6 hours.
And that was with a lot of setup and tweaking as well
Right.
off the unit, and then sorting and running the product as well and running back and forth. An optimal operation, we think we could do about 20 pounds a day at least, is that correct?
At least, probably more than that. Once you get your system fine-tuned and you get all of the components involved with the labeling, you can easily do that quantity, I think. The shielding, we put that on there because the scale heads are so sensitive. Any air movement around the scale heads will affect them. So we're trying to mitigate that by using protective devices. So it is very stable. If you look at the scales here, what they're reading, there's not much flutter, and that's good. That keeps us very, very accurate in where we want to be. Other than that, I think that's a pretty good overview, don't you think?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's awesome.